Welcome to Season 5 of Your Next Mission video podcast. I'm so glad you joined us today because we're going to be talking about a subject that is dear to my heart and important for all of our veterans and families. Many of our transitioning service members and their families struggle with the after effects of war, creating uncertainties of just how they fit back into civilian life. Babs Chase will be with us to talk about USA-led Face to Fight Coalition and the work they are doing to reduce the stigma of suicide. So please stick around. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Your Next Mission video podcast, where we tell the stories of those who have served in the past and those who are serving today. From transition to financial wellness, VA benefits to mental health, we cover issues facing veterans, active military, and their families. Now here's your host, the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army and co-founder of the American Freedom Foundation, Jack L. Tilley.
Thanks for joining us, and thanks to all of our veterans and service members and families for your service to our great country. Now, before we get started, I personally want to thank our presenting sponsors, Navy Federal Credit Union, whose members are the mission, and Purdue Global, where you can start your comeback with additional sponsorship from Blue Cross Blue Shield FEP Dental and Blue Cross Blue Shield FEP Vision and USAA. Together, they make your next mission happen. They love our veterans and family. And if you've watched this show before, I always say it, we love them too. Today's show focuses on the Face to Fight Coalition and how they are working to break the stigma surrounding suicide in our military community. And I'm excited to introduce Babs Chase, Director of Face to Fight Coalition. Babs, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Sergeant Major, it's a privilege to be with you today. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, this is an important subject for all of us, and I'm excited to hear exactly what you have to talk about. But before we get into that, would you tell the audience just a little bit about yourself?
Sure, happy to do it. So from a personal standpoint, Sergeant Major, I have spent the majority of my career working alongside and supporting the military veteran community. I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee. I moved to Washington, D.C. back in 2001, and within 2 years of getting here, I ended up in the Pentagon. I currently work at Elizabeth Dole Foundation, leading partnerships and leading our work with Face the Fight. But I have, and I think this helps for your audience, I have about 15 years in the Pentagon. I started out working for the Secretary of Defense, spent some time as a government contractor, and then wrapped up my time in the Pentagon working for the leadership of the United States Army doing outreach. So as you can imagine, the Army has a very special place in my heart from those 6 years, which I know we've got lots of friends in common, but really, really love that time. But I must add, and please don't hold this against me, but my husband is retired Navy.
Oh.
And I know, but he's a spectacular human.
I'm sure.
And we actually met when I was working for the leadership of the Army. So he spent 20 years in the Navy. His career was focused on naval aviation, and he continues to work in the defense space. So we call this area home here in DC and love it. But I think what's most important with all of that, the military community is my community. And the work that I'm doing isn't just a job. This is a passion, and I'm privileged to get to do the work.
I'm sure that you probably have got him to be a little bit more Army now, and you're probably working on him to.
He understands we're a joint family.
There you go.
I think we absolutely, but he understands pretty much December, that one day I still can't help but cheer for my Army friends.
I'm with you. Babs, let's start out by, and you just talked about it just a second, about telling the audience a little bit more about Face to Fight and its mission. I mean, it's really important. Sure. What you're doing is incredible. So tell the audience about the mission of Face to Fight.
Thank you. So just a little background. Face to Fight is a brand new initiative. When I say brand new, it's hard to believe we're coming up on 1 year, but our focus is on addressing the national crisis around veteran suicide. We're an initiative, to keep it really simple, we're focused on saving lives. So USAA launched Face the Fight back in June of 2023 with two founding partners, Reach Resilience, which is Endeavor's foundation, and the Humana Foundation. And then what we did is we brought together a lot of other organizations representing its corporations, foundations, nonprofit organizations, government liaisons, all organizations coming together to raise awareness and support for veteran suicide prevention. I will add our aspirational goal is to cut the veteran suicide rate in half by 2030. We realize that is a bold, audacious, and really, really scary goal, but you've got to aim big.
No.
So I think that's where we start.
Well, I always tell everybody, one suicide is too much.
Absolutely.
And when you look at the numbers, I'm not going to give you numbers. Every time I give numbers, I'm always off because it's growing. Every day it grows.
Well,
and it's really sad. Yeah.
No, I mean, and you're spot on. And I think, just a little bit more on the why. There is so much more. And we talk about the numbers. And I will say, from USAA's perspective, they are so in touch with their members. And when they asked their members what the number one concern is that was facing their families and the community in which they live, it kept coming up around mental health and suicide prevention in our population. And what I love about USAA is they said, you know what, we've got to do something about this.
Yeah.
That's when they brought together the founding partners, and they really changed how they do corporate responsibility and said, let's bring our resources together and address this. Let's align with what's already been happening with the VA, DOD, and so many organizations and nonprofits have been focused on this for decades. So, it's a lot there. And, I can keep going, but I'll stop there for a minute.
No, I understand, because I got to be honest with you. I don't think there's anybody that served in the military that doesn't struggle, that doesn't just struggle to fit in. And it is, I used to tell people, it's not something you can get over in a year or 2 years or 3 years. And if you go to war and you come back, you're going to probably struggle for the rest of your life. And the key to success is really talking to people, telling your story, letting people understand exactly how you feel, and finding something that you stay active and stay involved with people that are going. I always tell people that part of my DNA in the military was to keep everything to myself and not talk about those things. But now, and maybe I'm a little bit different. I probably am anyway, but a little bit different, because I really talk about stuff. And if you don't want to listen, don't listen. Hey, I got a question though. How did Elizabeth Dole Foundation become involved with the role, what their role is here? How do they get involved? Because that's a big organization right there, that's for sure.
It's a big organization. And what I'll say, when USAA was starting Face the Fight, they knew they couldn't do this alone. And they also, once they started to realize what it would take to build a coalition, they started looking around with their partners and said, who's the best at bringing together organizations, building coalitions, and really truly impacting change? And that's what we're focused on at the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. And as you know, with the foundation, we are the leading organization supporting our nation's caregivers. That's those family members. It's the spouses, it's the neighbors, it's the partners, everyone that supported our wounded, ill, and injured service members. And when you think about how the Elizabeth Dole Foundation raised visibility of that caregiving population, a group that was often forgotten, imagine what we can do by leading this coalition alongside, we mentioned USAA and our founding partners and all the different coalition members to really bring this concern to light and bring in organizations that may not have been working side by side together. So that's how they came to us. It is a absolute honor for us to be doing this work alongside so many amazing organizations. So that's how we got here.
Well, there's a lot of, there's many organizations out there really trying to make a difference in the prevention of suicide. And I got to ask you, I got to be honest about it, but what makes Face the Fight different, and why is it necessary, I guess?
Well, a number of reasons, and you said it earlier, the numbers haven't changed.
No.
So it's time to do something different. And, I sit there and think about it. And as you and I know, and I'll talk about this, we've lost over 125,000 veterans to suicide since 2001. And when you take a step back and you think about it, it's so hard to visualize what that actually means. And, now that we're in baseball season, if you think about it, most ballparks, max capacity is around 40 to 45,000. Mm-hmm. And when you start to think about that number, that's 3 times of Nats Park, right? And that's a number that is just so hard to even think about. So that's a why. Why was it needed? Because there's more that we can be doing, and as you said, we already know nonprofit, government organizations, and others have been in the trenches on this issue for decades. But no organization, no government entity can carry the weight of an issue this big on their own. And
No.
to be honest, the private sector and our community, Sergeant Major, they have a role, but they also have a responsibility. And, when we think about how do we align with others, how do we leverage the resources, the data, and the reach of the private sector, that's important. So that's our why. Now, I can keep going on why we're different. And I can pause there for a second, but then I'd love to jump in on just a few key points that I think make Face the Fight unique.
Absolutely.
So I'll start number one. We've already talked about it, but we're private sector led.
Mm-hmm.
And, we know how important that is to get the message out. We understand the reach of some of these massive organizations. Let's think alone about USAA. 25% of their employees are veterans. 100% of their members are military connected. If we can motivate that audience alone, think about what we can accomplish. Now add in our partners like Walmart. We know how large and impressive Walmart is all around the world. And we also know, then think about Humana. They put 988 on their cards. What an impact that has for the incredible reach of the people that use Humana as a company. And then, so think about that. The private sector led piece is one. In addition, data and science are at the core of what we do. We are making sure we invest in evidence-informed strategies around suicide prevention. Our phenomenal partners at UT Health San Antonio are leading the science and data piece of what's going on with Face the Fight. We also have a scientific advisory committee of 30 plus leaders in suicide prevention from all across the country that are helping to guide the work that we are doing. And, when you think about bringing in those great minds, that allows us to adjust and change what we're doing. Face the Fight is a long initiative. It's 6 years is the plan for Face the Fight. And so when you think about the opportunity, you've got to be nimble. You've got to be able to look at the data and shift what we're doing. And I'll brag on our UT Health team and our scientific team one more time. They also built what's called a dynamic data model. That model allows us to calculate and estimate lives saved based on the grant making through Face the Fight, which is, to me, absolutely amazing because it's not just a feel-good campaign. We're actually able to look at data and understand progress and results.
Yeah.
So I'll start there.
No, this great. I'm going to add just a little bit to that. I think what we ought to do too is we ought to start talking about it when you're in the military also. We ought to start talking. We ought to start talking about how you're going to transform, how you transition. Because all of a sudden, if you think about it, after 36 years, I just sort of walked out of the military, and there's stuff there for me, and I guess I got that. But a lot of, most of the people don't retire from the military. They just, spend 3, 4, 5, 6 years and then get out. And a lot of them struggle for a long, long time. And so we need to put something, even as far back as basic AIT and your schooling within the educational program for officers and non-commissioned officers. So I think we need to start talking a little bit more before you ever get to that point. And we need to do a lot more about educating spouses about the kind of things that are going to occur too, because they're the ones. I mean, I got married a long time. I know who's in charge of my family, not me. But the fact of the matter is, if you go to a spouse and ask them what the issues, they'll tell you. And so I think it's 100%. Important. Yeah.
Well, I think a couple of things you say there. Absolutely. And we know, with the number of years I spent in the Pentagon and the close relationships I've had with so many in our military connected community, physical fitness and physical health are number one.
Absolutely.
But mental health is health.
Yeah.
So, and I know DOD has been looking at this, they're struggling with it. They understand the magnitude of what's happening at the same time, but how do we incorporate mental health alongside everything we're doing around physical health? And I think that could have such a difference. And I think back to, a number of good friends of mine that were working on that. When you think about, the performance triad that was a part of the Army for so long. Mm-hmm. And, you think about the importance of all the components that go into health. Mental health should be right there with that.
Oh, I agree. 100%.
And I think you're right. And I'll also give you kudos for the shout out to the spouses. It's the families. It's the caregivers as well for our veterans, because that's who's watching and understanding. and is so concerned about watching their loved one's success, whether that's transitioning out and finding a job, finding purpose, but it's also finding community. There's so much more to it. And that significant other is going to be watching those changes and is the one, so much of what's important with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation is that voice of the caregiver. And, it's not just when things are wrong physically, it's also paying attention to those needs emotionally and making sure that community is surrounding those that have served.
You are motivating me so much. I'm so glad that you're involved in this process. But a couple of things here. One is staying physically fit is really important because it allows you. I used to get stressed out about stuff, but I'd get out and run 5-6 miles and I feel so much better. When I got out of the Army, I sort of slowed down on my PT, but now I'm sort of back into it. The other thing is we just got to talk a lot more. We got to tell people about our feelings. We got to say, hey, look, this is bothering me, and be right honest about it. And I think sometimes, again, going back to, I was taught not to say anything, keep it to myself. We got to be a little bit more open about that. So that's really important for all of us.
Well, I think you're spot on. And it's so hard because, the culture that's built in the military is around strength. And you're asking people to kind of switch what that culture looks like and helping people understand that asking for help is strength and it really is, but I think it's hard because people think that that's, so many people were raised, particularly in our country, that's not what you do. But, I was at an event yesterday hosted by the Navy SEAL Foundation, and you think about those that have served in our special forces across all of our branches and understanding the importance, particularly in populations like that. And it's like, hey guys, this is what you need to do. You need to be looking out for each other in uniform and once you hang up the uniform as well, because that sense that community spreads. And, it really does.
It's important. Hey, I think we've talked a little bit about this, but I'm gonna ask you a few more questions about this. Now, we've talked about some of the initiative Face the Fight is doing through the coalition partners is undertaken and the impact they are having helps solve some of the problems. Can you talk maybe a little bit more about that? Some of the initiatives maybe coalition partners are doing.
Sure. We've got a number of amazing organizations. So I'm going to shout out you first.
All right.
As a member of our coalition, thank you. But, I think what's been so great about our coalition partners is they are so diverse. We launched with about 40 coalition members, and we're now at 170 and growing every day.
Wow, that's great.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
But what's important to note is all these organizations are different. They bring different programs, different strengths to the conversation. And, what I love about what you're doing is you're highlighting these stories. You've brought on, I know you've had Tiffany Benjamin from the Humana Foundation. I know you've had Cohen Veterans Network on, and you're talking about bringing other people around Face the Fight. We appreciate that because you're using your work and your platform to tell the story. And if our goal is to save lives, we're going to do that by engaging more and more individuals, organizations, and their stakeholders in the conversation. So, number one to me, thank you, because you are one of 100 and let's say 70, hopefully, and plus by the time this airs. But
I hope so.
That's a big piece. But, I want to go back to a little bit. I'll give another shout out. Psych Armor is one of our coalition members, but also a grantee. And I love the work they've done. And I think this is particularly important thinking about your audience that's listening today. They helped us build through their grant, the Face the Fight training portal. And that is bite-sized training. This is not too time intensive for those that just want to learn how to support their military connected community. They have a training focused on suicide prevention. It's on general understanding of the community, just to help with that military cultural competency, but at the same time, also understand what they can do around suicide prevention and how they can play a part. That is linked to our website. But we love what Psych Armor has brought. In addition, I mentioned UT Health. They've also got other trainings available on crisis response plan training, as well as lethal means safety. We've got, I could list on and on when I think about our coalition partners. You talked about the importance of community and engaging. We've got organizations like Mission Continues. We have American Corporate Partners that's focused on mentors. We have Hiring Our Heroes that is also focused on that connectedness around transition and employment. We have, heavens, let me think back. Merging Vets and Players is one that's done some really incredible work. When I talk about the training, they have been requiring their regional teams to go through that crisis response plan training. So, and I'm highlighting right now a lot of our nonprofits. Stop Soldier Suicide, we know the impressive work they're doing. And, I think I can keep going on, and I want to continue this to be a dialogue.
No. But it's good information that we did. Yeah, go ahead.
And I think too, we talked about a lot of the corporate partners that we're bringing in, and I don't want to miss anyone, so I'll make sure I cover them. So give me a second. We've got KPMG, Lockheed Martin, we've mentioned Walmart, we have Fiserv, we've already talked about Reach Resilience Humana Foundation, Benevity, Rally Point, Military Times Foundation. I think I've got them all, but I know there's more. Comcast, I don't want to forget them. But all of these organizations, and we're having so many other strong, robust conversations, not just how they contribute philanthropically to our grant making. We do have a donor advised fund, and through the Face the Fight charitable fund, that's what we're using to invest. So those philanthropic dollars are crucial. But what's also equally important is how these organizations are activating within their veteran resource groups, across all of their employees, but also with their stakeholders and their customer base. That's the strength of the private sector coming together with us on their work, is the ability to really transform their internal cultures, but also the communities in which they do business.
I've got to add something else to this. A couple of things. I've always thought, why don't we have something on national television that talks about, it doesn't have to be a long show, a 15-minute show, or a little soundbite of that. And why don't we put something in our schools, our educational program in our schools? And why don't we put something in every hospital in the VA around the country that puts stuff in about those kind of things that we're working on? So we sort of, I guess we try to, we get out of the military, we got to cut, we try to fix it. We got to start earlier too, about educating people about those kind of things. So you got to start somewhere, you got to do it, but we need to just get better and better and better and better with it. So this is a great job. Babs, I understand you're coming up with the first anniversary of Face the Fight, and I'm going to dig into that. But first, there's always a burst first with me. We got to take a quick break.
Great.
This is Your Next Mission video podcast with me, your host, Jack L. Tilley, 12th Sergeant Major. If you're enjoying discussion, I know that you are, because we're talking about veterans. I'm talking about people that needs assistance. Please like us, click on that subscribe button below, and be sure to click on the bell to receive notifications of all of our upcoming video podcasts. I'll be right back after this word from our presenting sponsors.
You're watching Your Next Mission video podcast, proudly presented by Navy Federal Credit Union, the most trusted credit union owned by members of the military community, serving all branches of the armed forces and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. And Purdue Global. You're ready for a comeback, and with Purdue Global, you can do more than take classes. You can take charge of your story, of your career, of your life. Earn a degree you can be proud of and get an education employers respect. Start your comeback at PurdueGlobal.edu. Now back to your host, the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army, Jack L. Tilley.
Welcome back. We're talking with Bab Chase, Director of the Face to Fight Coalition. Before we jump back into our discussion, I'd like to take a few seconds to tell you about a new program we're excited about and called Your Next Mission VCS, a Veterans Community Support Program. We'll provide personalized one-on-one support to address the unique needs within our veteran community through our many partnerships with other veterans service organizations. Please check us out at yournextmission.org/VCS and register to participate today. Remember, we want to help you with whatever your issues you and your family are facing. So please, please, please reach out to us. Babs, on June 29th, Face the Fight will be celebrating its first anniversary and you're getting ready to launch new initiatives that is really exciting. Would you tell us about those new initiatives?
So, well, a number of things we're focused on, but what I am super excited about is we're going to be launching our social media and really taking our public awareness campaign to the next level. So, social media is something we've been focused on, but when we're trying to highlight the work, not just what we're doing directly with Face the Fight, but across our coalition, collective impact is everything. And we want to tell our story, we want to provide resources, but we really also want to lift up the amazing coalition partners and grantees and others that we work with that are doing important work around veteran suicide prevention. So this is, to us, to get that out there and start to build those initiatives is going to be huge, even more. I've talked about the training that we're doing. We're going to continue to do more around training. We are also, through our social channels and public awareness, continue to really share more authentic voices, because we know that's important. We understand, we talk about the challenges and the strength around asking for help. We also know that authentic voices matter to our military connected community. They aren't necessarily going to say everything and ask for help when they're talking to a physician or somebody in that position of authority. They're going to talk to a peer.
Yeah.
So how do we help them hear these stories and understand that this is normal? We highlight a few great stories on our website. But, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. We're going to continue. I'm really excited as well. We're about to start hosting some listening sessions with some of our coalition partners to really look at the diverse voices that we know we need to hear. And that's talking about, we've already talked about military spouses. We're talking about the caregivers. It's our minority populations. It's our survivors. There's so many people we need to hear from, our different age groups, to really understand how do we need to be thinking about this crisis. So lots of great things coming, more and more opportunities for our coalition members and our communities to engage.
I got to add something to that. I got to tell you a quick story here. None of my stories are quick anyway, but I'm going to tell you a quick story. I was in the Pentagon one time, and they took me up, and they had a sergeant major that was a special operations sergeant major. He was in the 82nd before that. And I went in there and started talking to him, and I said, how about this guy right? I said, well, he really doesn't talk to anybody. And he'd actually been shot in the head twice. Or shot in the head once and shot somewhere else a second time. And he was legally blind. And so I went up and said, hey, how's it going? And it took me 15 minutes to get away from him because he just kept talking. And we got outside, and the person was there. He said, how come he talked to you and didn't talk to me? He says, and I told him, I said, because I walked in his boots. And he understood that I understood exactly what he was talking about. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's a little different. It's a little different if you've been there, got there, and got the T-shirt, I guess. The other thing is, I think sometimes it's important for who's putting that message out there. And 100%. You said that just a second ago. I mean, I spent like 36 years in the Army, and there's a lot of senior NCOs, I think, that are out there that would love to help with your message, getting it out there. So it's important to do that. Hey, what progress have you experienced over the first year, and what is the hope for next year? I mean, I know you did a lot of stuff, but what are we going to do? It's always, what are we going to do next? I mean, you're doing a good job. What's next?
Well, I'm going to start by giving a shout out to the Face the Fight team, and our coalition members have been so busy. And I want to highlight just a few things. I'm going to make sure I get all of these done. We already talked about the fact that the growth around our coalition, going from 40 to over 170 in less than a year, is amazing.
It is amazing.
Because it shows there's a need and an opportunity for people to bring together that collective impact, share resources to impact a real change. We have invested almost $12 million in grant making and 3 rounds of grants in the first year. And we talked about the reach and how we're using science and data to really look at what we're doing from a grant making and outreach. Through our grant making, we've touched over 3.1 million lives.
Oh, my goodness.
In addition,
wow.
I know, those numbers are absolutely phenomenal. In addition to that, through the dynamic data model, we know that we have saved, right now, based on that, 3,500 lives saved by 2032, as measured through the dynamic data model. In addition, one other bragging point, we are so grateful to those that have contributed philanthropically to Face the Fight. We right now have 87 million committed to the Face the Fight Charitable Fund.
Ooh, congratulations. And I'll tell you, do me a favor, keep bragging because you're saving lives. It's an important thing to do. People say that you're bragging when you're talking about something. And I tell you, no, I'm not bragging. I'm telling you what's going on. You need to know what the issues are. You need to understand what those issues are.
Right.
But this is important.
Right.
This is so important for us, and it's so important for our country to get behind Face to Fight Coalition and the other people that are doing so much. You told us a story about your husband, which I really loved. That was really good. Would you tell us that story about your husband again? Share it with the audience anyway.
I'm happy to do that. When I first started doing this work, my husband, as I mentioned earlier, he served 20 years in naval aviation. And at first he said, you know what, this isn't something that really touches our community. And, maybe peripherally, but he hadn't really thought about and taken a step back on that. And he said, it's not as big an issue with this population. But what was remarkable, the more and more that he shared with peers and colleagues the work I was doing, the more he found out how much he was wrong.
Yeah.
And I did ask permission if I could share this story. And he said, please, because there's others that need to take that step back.
Yeah.
And, what's heartbreaking, though, is that he now knows they've lost 8 to 9 in about 18 months. And, I think for him, and what I've also been so proud of him, because obviously he's so proud of the work I'm doing and he knows what a difference it's making for our community, but it's also getting him to talk. It's getting him to pay different. He's already so thoughtful in supporting people with transition, but now understanding that others may be suffering in different ways. And that absolutely, and I think this is a message that your audience knows, but it's a good reminder that, suicide is a crisis that affects everyone. We had Steve Schwab, the leader of the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, was with Lockheed Martin recently with their employee resource group. And when they reached out and asked the audience, they said, how many people have been affected by veteran suicide? And there was an audible gasp in the room when you realized almost every single hand went up. This is affecting at every level and every community, whether it's within your family or someone you know. It's everyone's responsibility to help solve this crisis. And I think that's what, when my husband took that time and really understood the problems, that was huge to know that he could have a strong impact.
Yeah. The thing about that is, again, going back to, people won't tell you how they feel. When you work at work and you do your stuff and you go home, it's a different world. You know what I mean? You're back with your family, your kids and everything. And you're not going to talk about the things that affect you because people are concerned about, well, if I tell you what's happening, I won't be promoted or you'll look at me differently.
Right.
And that's not the truth. We got to be open about this. This is a great discussion, and I have a couple more questions. I always have. I shouldn't say a couple. I got a lot more questions for you, but there's always a but. But first, we need to take another quick break. Thank you so much. Don't move anywhere. I'll be right back.
I'm moving.
Now here's a word from 2 more of the organizations that make this show possible.
You're watching Your Next Mission video podcast, brought to you in part by Blue Cross Blue Shield FEP Dental, Blue Cross Blue Shield FEP Vision.
Part of transitioning out is that dental and vision insurance breaks off from your medical insurance.
Vision and dental is very important to be able to enjoy your retirement.
Blue Cross Blue Shield makes the transition so much easier.
And USAA.
A promise is a trust not to be broken, whether spoken with an oath or sealed with a pinky. And after 100 years, we're still taking care of the military community and their families. That's our mission, always.
Now back to your host, the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army, Jack L. Tilley.
Welcome back. We're blessed to be here today with Bab Chase, Director of Face to Fight Coalition. Remember, this is your show. We know there's so many issues that directly affect you, and I want to address each and every one of them. So please, I've said it before, reach out to me. Tell me what you need, any kind of assistance. Tell me what topics you'd like us to cover. You can call or text me at 844-424-1134 or send me an email at SMA Tilley at yournextmission.org. And guess what? I'll reach back out to you. Babs, first off, the work you and your team are doing with Face to Fight is incredible. And we want to thank you so much for that. I mean, I don't think I could thank you enough. And I understand it's a
Thank you.
It's special recognition that USA just received for Face to Fight. And, I wish I'd get a pat on the back, but you guys got some special recognition. So would you tell me what that was, please?
I am happy to do so. I am never going to shy away from bragging about our
No,
team.
brag. I want to brag. Yeah, go ahead. You should. Before you say something, you should. It's not bragging, it's educating, but you should tell your story, and it's important for you to get out there. And I'm joking about, bragging a little bit, but you guys are doing a tremendous job, and I want to help as much as I can. So please tell us about your recognition.
Well, what I want to do is I'm bragging about USAA, so that helps because as our founding partners, what I love what they have done, and I think, we talked about this earlier, what they've done is really innovative. And, I hope when you see organizations like this that say we talked about not just a role, but a responsibility to step up and do things differently. They completely transformed how they do corporate responsibility to bring together a coalition like this. And so I'm going to make sure I get the notes. I'm going to look at my notes to make sure I read this correctly. But
go for it.
Forbes placed USAA at number 6 on its best brands for social impact in 2024. They singled out the work that they're doing with Face the Fight and, recognizing that they as a company really listened to their members and then transformed how they support through veteran health and suicide prevention. So that's huge. And that's all around Face the Fight. In addition, they were also honored just recently and will be honored by Benevity with their Bestie Award. So that's another really impressive way to recognize the best-in-class approach that they're taking to corporate responsibility and the groundbreaking approaches that they're taking with Face the Fight around veteran suicide. Now, I would be remiss if I also didn't recognize Humana Foundation. So our other founding partner also received the prestigious Partner of the Year Award from the National Council on Wellbeing for their work around preventing suicide. So we're keeping good company and really, really proud to recognize that others see the value of what these organizations are doing and hopefully inspiring others to join us in this important work.
I tell people all the time, sometimes you get around people to just talk about it, and you're not talking about it. You're doing something about it. You're making change. Right. You're saving lives. You're doing exactly what you should be doing. So my hat's off to you. You're just doing an incredible job. Again, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Anything we can do to help you, we're here for you anytime. Please let us know. How can someone reach out to, the Face to Fight to learn more about, and really more about you, and then how do they get involved?
Yeah. So go directly to the website, wefacethefight.org. We want more people to be a part of this movement. We welcome more organizations to get directly involved. So we encourage our organizations to join the coalition, share these messages with their stakeholders, their customers, their neighbors and friends, and then also tell the stories of the organizations doing great work. Our focus on collective impact, as we talked about, allows us to raise the visibility of those organizations that are on the ground doing this work on a day-to-day basis all across the country. And we encourage you to research them. You can see all of our coalition members are listed on the website. So please go take a look there. We also talked about the resources. We have trainings and resources that we highlight on the website. All the trainings we talked about, you can find linked there. And we encourage your audience, take those trainings. Start learning what you can do and how you can be a voice in this conversation. And then also, as I think we told you, we're launching our social media. And we encourage people to follow us. We will continue, as I said, to highlight other great organizations doing this work, but then also provide resources so others can really be a catalyst for change and help save lives.
Oh, my goodness. You're doing a tremendous job. And the fact you're getting on social media, I think it's really important to get out there and spread the word because you're going to get in contact with a little bit of younger adults, older adults like myself. I still stay on social media a little bit, but thank you for what you're doing. And thank you for what you continue to do. I've said it a couple of times. Please use us. I sometimes say me, but use us because we surely try to help you. I think this is too quick. I wish we could have talked a lot longer. But any final thoughts? Anything you want to share with the audience that maybe we missed or you want to reemphasize there?
Well, I think what's most important is we all have a role. We all have an opportunity to be a part of this. And I encourage everyone to take that step and to think about how you engage with others. Be kind, ask questions. When people feel seen and heard, life is better. And,
It is.
we all know veteran suicide, it's not inevitable. It's preventable. We know this issue is so complicated. It's so diverse and hard. But we also know that when we face this fight together, that we really can instill hope and make a difference. So that's my parting words is join us with Face the Fight. And I can't thank you enough for the opportunity, for all the work you're doing, and for bringing the community together and helping them all understand that it really is about the people around you and how we support them.
Oh, Babs, I'm so motivated. God bless you for what you're doing and what your team is doing.
Thank
and
you.
Keep up the great work. And again, thanks for coming on the
Thank you.
show.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to Bad Chase for being with us today. She loves what she's doing and she wants to make a difference. And we need to make sure that we get right behind her and do all that we can to help her. I'm Jack Tilley, 12th Sergeant Major of the Army, and you've been enjoying Your Next Mission video podcast. And thank you for joining us. Log on to our website at yournextmission.org and leave me a review. I always say I hope it's a good review, but if it's a bad one, I guess I can take that too. While you're there, you can visit our nonprofit and corporate partners who have jobs and services available that can assist you in your transition from the military. And check out our job board in partnership with Recruit Military, where you can search for a job that's just right for you. You'll find a short video that will help you fine-tune your search and where you can also create your own personal profile. You can follow me on all my personal social media pages, Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Rumble. And if you like what we're doing, go to Your Next Mission and click on that subscribe button. And don't forget, click on the bell to receive notifications about all of our upcoming video podcasts. Don't forget, we want to hear from you. Please leave me a message or send me a text at 844-424-1134 or send me an email at smatilley@yournextmission.org. Thanks again to Bab Chase from Face to Fight Coalition for joining us. And I would just simply say that the Face to Fight Coalition is making a difference. They want to do all they can for our veteran community and their families. I've said on the show a few times about I struggle each and every day about things that maybe I seen years ago that's tough for me to get through. But I know that I'm not alone. And you're not alone. So don't forget, you're not in this by yourself. If you're struggling, you have a problem, talk to somebody. Also, I'll tell your story because it's therapy. It's therapy for you to get it out. Don't hold it in. Don't hold it in. Please get it out and talk to somebody because, again, you're not by yourself. We're all part of a family, and I guarantee you we'll take care of each other. Again, thanks for watching, and thanks to New Mind Studios, and of course, our sponsors, Navy Federal Credit Union, Purdue Global, Blue Cross Blue Shield, FEP Dental, and Blue Cross Blue Shield, FEP Vision, and USAA. We appreciate all you do for our military. And as always, see you on the high ground. Hooah!
You've been listening to Your Next Mission, brought to you by the American Freedom Foundation. Learn more by visiting yournextmission.org.